Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokémon Emerald video. Today I will be playing through the game with the last of the Regi trio. Let's see how Registeel performs compared to the other two, or if he will sink in the depths of the sea. Registeel has probably the best typing out of the three, since Steel resists a lot of types in the game. There will be a couple of major challenges though that might pose a problem for this Steel guy. Anyway, for the rules, I can only use my starter in combat, I can't use items from my bag in battle, I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. Just like the other two, Registeel also starts with only explosion. So, once again, I will give myself a couple of rare candies, enough to reach level 9, when Registeel learns Metal Claw, the first decent move in his learn set. One thing that Registeel has in common with Regice is that their stab moves are not very effective against Torchic, so the first few fights against May might pose a challenge. Registeel also has the most balanced stats out of the three, with 75 in boot attacking stats and 150 in boot defensive stats. Usually that's not great for a solo run. You generally want a lot of speed and a lot of attack or special attack. And that's really not the case for Registeel. Especially because I got a speed lowering nature too, so there might be some issues with that in the future. Once we have dealt with the first few trainers in the game, it's time to take on the first gym. Roxanne of course uses rock types that are weak to steel, so this is not going to be particularly hard. Also, steel resists rock, so they will not be able to do much damage to me either. Since my attack is not very high and their defense is quite good, my damage is not super great either, and they leave a few hits. But that's not really going to be a problem, as throughout the fight I lose only a handful of HP to their moves. Once we break through her nose pass, we have earned the first badge in the game, and with that we can use Cut out of combat, which is surprisingly not a required TM to beat the game. Also there is the Pico side quest, where we have to save this Wingull from the Team Aqua Grant, which I believe it's the same in the forest. This time he goes down even easier, and with the bird rescued, we can take a boat trip to Dewford Island. But first, we have to face May once again, as we are leaving town. This time her team is a bit more dangerous, not because of the Lotad, since he really cannot do much, although I have to say I was not expecting him to leave 2 attacks. The danger is Torchic, since it knows Ember, and he even gets a burn. Fortunately, Registeel can learn Rock Tomb, the TM we got from Roxanne, and with that we can deal with the fire starter. Of course, I skipped Brawly since his team is super effective on me, and instead we got to Slateport, where as usual we have to defeat a few Team Aqua Grants. Their Pokémons are not particularly powerful, but since Metal Claw is resisted and makes contact, I ended up taking a bit of damage from Rough Skin. The other option is to use Rock Tomb, since that is neutral and does not make contact, but it has lower accuracy, so I was not sure what to do. Once we took care of them, we can grind a bit more around town before we have to face our rival once again. This is the hardest fight against May by a lot. because her starter has now evolved and I don't have access to that many tools. I thought she wasted a turn with the focus energy, but then she proceeds to crit me twice, so yeah, that was very good on her part. Somehow I live on just 3 HP, and then Lombre is not quite able to break through me. All of his moves are resisted and only do 1 or 2 HP. Eventually we can defeat her last Pokémon, and now we have access to the Mobile Town. Here we have a lot more grinding to do, and there is also a guy that teaches rollout. I was tempted to learn that since it's a decent rock move, but since I do not have Defense Girl, I don't think it will be able to be good for much longer. Instead, I took on the gym leader Wattson with the more or less usual moveset for the Regis. This time I was a bit more worried, since status effects seem to not like me very much in this run, and paralysis could really mess me up if I got fully paralyzed multiple times. Fortunately, a cherry berry can solve that issue at least once, and my somewhat high physical attack makes it so superpower is a one-shot on both Magneton and Manectric. Defeating this gym in one shot without much trouble definitely restored my hope, and after exploring a bit more of the region and meeting up with the two teams in Meterfall Cave, we can climb the volcano to face Maxi. He plans to trigger the volcano and make it erupt to awaken Groudon, but we end up challenging him to stop him. Today, Clear Body is going to be very useful, because yeah, sure, Registeel has the same attack and special attack, but his move pool is much more physically oriented. So I expect to use a lot more physical attacks than specials, other than maybe Thunderbolt here and there. For now, Maxi's team did not pose a challenge, but later he might be more dangerous. Unfortunately, our next gym is not going to be as easy. Flannery uses fire types and they are super effective on me, so Torkoal was able to melt me down once. My special defense is high, but not that high, so I can't really take many hits from them. Especially if they set up Sun and then Torkoal overheats me. I tried to use a couple of curses here and there and maybe get an ancient power boost, so to have enough attack to two-shot Torkoal. That somehow worked, especially because the turtle wasted a turn setting up the sun. I'd say this good luck makes up for the burns and crits earlier. After getting the fire badge from Flannery, we have to backtrack a bit and face Brawly. Of course, since we came back to him so late, his team is very underleveled compared to me, and a Metal Claw should be enough to take care of his Pokémons. Well, that is assuming that I do not miss. Other than the first stumble, Metal Claw does not miss again, and in no time we can acquire his badge too. Now that we have all 4 first badges, we can backtrack just a bit more and face our dead Norman for the normal gym. This fight should not be too hard. Their stab moves are resisted and I have superpower to deal a lot of damage to them. The only thing that could be a problem is slacking because of counter, but as long as I can play around that using a course whenever he can attack, this fight should be free. I'm not sure why I used Metal Claw so many times when superpower would have been enough to destroy this slacking much earlier. I mean, sure, it will lower my stats, but it's not really gonna matter that much since I am super effective, so I already have a lot of damage, and I resist them, so I already have a lot of defense. Eventually I realized that and started the superpower sweep, which ends a couple of turns later with a whole bunch of Pokémons returning to their Pokéballs. Now that we have acquired the 5th badge too, we can use Surf, and with that TM we eventually reach the Weather Institute. Here we find a few scientists being held hostage by one of the Team Aqua Admirals. Shelly is not much of a challenge, her 2 Pokémons can't do too much to me, especially because I have decent moves by now. Instead, a trainer that is sort of strong is our rival that we have to face just a couple of steps later. Mei is not super powerful, but considering how easily she usually gets defeated at this point, today she sort of put up a decent challenge. Her team is a bit more tanky than I was expecting, so I can't one-shot them super easily. Or at least that was true at the start, because midway through the fight I got an ancient power boost, and that simplifies things a lot. After defeating our rival here, we have some stuff with Steven where he shows us how to use the device to find the Kecleons, and with that we can enter the next gym. Winona specializes in flying types, which are not particularly powerful against us since we resist their stab moves too. The only thing I have to worry about is Altaria with Earthquake, but as you can see it really does not do much damage unless she sets up multiple Dragon Dances. Since I do not leave her enough time to do so, the Cloud Dragon ends up falling too, and the rest of the team should not be that much of a threat. Skarmory could be annoying with the usual sand attack, but a superpower is enough to defeat the metal board, so that makes my life a lot easier. A few more attacks later we can clear her team and get the Fly Badge. Now that we have that one too, we can resume our journey, and eventually we stumble upon the last fight against our rival Mei. As usual, she is standing here guarding the substitute DM, and since that move is extremely powerful for the Elite Four, I wanted to use that, and to get it I have to remove Mei. Her team is very similar to the previous encounter, she only evolved Lombre and got a Tropius. Neither of those are particularly scary, and while the fight does last a few turns since Pelipper stalls me with Protect, that's nothing to worry about. By this point I also forgot about Thunderbolt, so do not expect me to use it throughout the rest of the video. Once we have defeated our rival for the last time, we can go to the Pokémon Cemetery and get the Magma Emblem. With this key item we can enter the cave where Groudon is, and we reach that Pokémon just after Maxi uses the blue orb to awaken it. Since he used the wrong color, Groudon is able to flee, and Maxi fights us because, I don't know, he's angry, I guess. Camerupt is a bit more scary this time, since he knows Earthquake. But that move does not do much damage, because Curse also raises my physical defense. Once Camerupt is defeated, I am much less worried, since Crobat cannot do too much to me, especially because a crit Ancient Power puts it 6 feet under. After defeating Maxi, we have to infiltrate the Team Aqua base, but here we are only able to find one of their Admiral, who challenges us to buy his boss enough time to run away. and even though he is quite weak and very easy to defeat, it only takes a couple of turns. That is still enough for Archie to use his stolen submarine to flee again. Next, we have a lot of grinding to do, because our next fight is going to be against Tate and Liza, the penultimate gym. I am not super worried about this one. I can take care of their meteorite Pokémons with Metal Claw. The real problem here really is Claydol, since it knows Earthquake and does not take much damage from my returns. Since I am already quite slow and often move last, I used Curse a couple of times to at least increase my damage output and hopefully one-shot the rest of the Pokémons, as well as raising my physical defense to better protect against the earthquakes. Unfortunately, physical defense is not very useful throughout the rest of the fight, as their Pokémons mostly have special attacks. Solrock is able to hit me twice with the flamethrower and brings me super low on HP. Since Xatu had a lot of Calm Mind boost, I took care of that guy, even though I risked a hypnosis from Lunaton. I got lucky and the Moon Pokémon did not use it, so I could defeat it a couple of turns later. Next, we have to go help Steven with his fight against the leadership of Team Magma. Again, Camerupt could be a problem, since I believe that both of them know Earthquake. Fortunately for me, their AI is not super smart and often refuses to use that move because they believe they are going to hurt their partner Pokémon, even if the partner is a flying type like Crobat or Golbat. This fight does end up taking a bit longer than I would have liked, mostly because I got confused and often hit myself in confusion. That is not too dangerous, because my defense is very high compared to the attack, so even if I hit myself multiple times, the damage is not going to be very high. I have to admit that when I first started using the Regis, I was a bit worried for them because of their low speed and not super high attacking stats. Well, I can safely say that they sort of impressed me. All of them did not get that many resets, and playing through the game with them was sort of fun. I would have preferred if their move pool was better, but at least it's better than nothing. Now that we have the Dive HM, we can reach the Seafloor Cave, where we find Archie about to wake up the other legendary Pokémon. Since we do not want him to do that, we challenge him to a fight trying to stop him. The fight against him is sort of similar to the other ones against the teams, because I get confused and hit myself quite a few times. This time though, my HP starts to get kinda low, and I was worried I would lose against the rest of his Pokémons. Fortunately, since my Tiena used Swagger to confuse me, my attack is now through the roof, and one hit is enough to defeat the rest of his Pokémons. So even though it was close, we still came out on top at the end. Of course, that is not quite enough to stop the apocalypse, as the red orb activates and wakes up Kyogre. Now, as usual, we have to go ask Rayquaza for help to stop the other two legendaries, and while I do that, could you scroll down a little, leave a like, ring the bell, maybe subscribe, or leave a comment. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. After rescuing the world, we can get to the last badge, and here Juan uses water types. That is sort of bad for us, since Metal Claw is resisted and we can't use it very much. Also, there are a couple of other annoyances like Wishcash that knows Earthquake and could do decent damage to us. What I should have done here really is set up a bunch of courses, not really because of the defense, but for the attack. I am already very slow and often I get outsped, so the speed drops did not really matter. But the increased attack could have saved me a lot of trouble. Firstly, because I don't have enough attack to one-shot his Pokémons, so I still have to take multiple hits from them, which is not good. And second, because once Kindra comes out, the quote-unquote fun games begin. He spams a lot of double teams, making my accuracy extremely low. That, combined with my not so high attack, is enough to give him a lot of turns to pretty much maximize his dodge. That would not be so bad if he did not know rest, because if I miss twice, he can use it again and get back to full HP a bunch of times. So much so that I sort of run out of return PPs, and at that point my mind clears a bit. I spam a lot of courses so that my attack is very high, and at this point one hit from return and hopefully Ancient Power too should be enough to defeat the Kindra. Of course, when it rains it pours, and I get confused by a water pulse. Just my usual luck. Eventually I can snap through it, and with a maybe needed crit I can finally defeat the Seahorse Pokémon. That was very much not fun. But at least now we have all of the badges and we can enter the Victory Road. Here we are immediately challenged by Wally, and his team is a bit annoying, mostly because by this point I got rid of Superpower, so I can't remove Magneton very easily, and also the RNG is back. I got paralyzed by Dragon Breath the first turn, which is just great, and then I get confused by Magneton and hit myself a lot of times. Also, he has a Thunderbolt that does not do that much damage to me, but considering that he can use it multiple times, it starts to add up. Once again, I really should have just dropped everything and cursed all the way, so that at least if I get a turn, it's a guaranteed one-shot. Instead, I tried to keep pulling through as is, which sort of worked out for me, but that was very much not the best choice. After a whole bunch more turns and potions later, I can finally finish off the last of his Pokémons, and from there explore the rest of the Victory Road, and sooner or later get to the League. Here I removed Metaclaw for Substitute, since Metaclaw is not going to be too powerful throughout those fights, at least not as much as Return. Sure, it can give me the attack boost, but if I really want to fish for boost, I will be using Ancient Power. As usual, Substitute is great for Sidney since it blocks all of the RNG moves and also gives me time to set up a couple of courses. They are not very many, and of course I did not learn my lesson, because Shiftry leaves a hit and tries to go for the double team strategy. Fortunately, this time it does not work well for him, mostly because he ended up increasing my attack with Swagger, and as soon as I can get through the confusion, one hit is enough to defeat him. He also used Torment, which is honestly more annoying than problematic. It makes it so I cannot use the same move twice in a row, and that forces me to switch between Return and Ancient Power every turn. At least the rest of the team goes down easier, and soon I can get to the second fight against Phoebe. This one is much less dramatic. I use a substitute to ignore curse, and from there I use curse myself a lot of times, so much so that I max out my attack and defense. This time it was kinda needed, because the only attack I have is Ancient Power, and even with the Leppa Berry I do not have that many PPs. And then I found out that even at max attack power, I tried to go on the offensive without my attack maxed out, and Dusclops was able to leave a hit. That is very bad, as I can't afford to waste many PPs. After setting up the rest of the way, I was hoping to be able to sweep through his team. I was hoping to sweep through her team, but now the second Dusclops leaves. Fortunately, the berry saves me from the potion range, so I can finish off the Dusclops with another Ancient Power, and that saves me a lot of PPs, since Dusclops has the ability Pressure, which doubles your PP usage. Thanks to that, I have enough PPs to finish off the rest of her team with an Ancient Power, even though Sableye too tries to go for the double team strategies. Fortunately, the RNG gods took pity on me and decided to save me from hell. Up next is the fight against Glacia, and this one was a bit easier. Ancient Power is super effective on all of her Pokémons, so after a couple of courses to increase my damage, I can go on the offensive with that move, and maybe even get an Omni Boost along the way. Here the reduced speed sort of hurts me, since they are not very fast either, so without the courses I probably could have outsped them. Because of that, they all have a chance to attack me before I can do anything, and that is sort of a problem, as I don't have a whole lot of HP and their attacks start to add up, bringing me down lower and lower. At least I should be sort of safe once Wall Rain goes down, since the rest of their moves are all not very effective on me. So unless they get a freeze, I should be fine. Fortunately, that does not happen. I get spared from bad status RNG for once, and I can finish the rest of her team without any issues. Lastly, for the Elite Four, we have to take on Drake. The fight against him turned out to be kinda hard, because of course he has multiple Pokémons that have very good moves against me. In the end, the strategy was to set up a bunch of courses so that I could one-shot his Pokémons, and hopefully I can survive enough attacks to get through his team. To maybe give myself a better chance, I used a substitute before taking down Shelgon, so that it could tank a couple of hits for me, and maybe that was just what I needed to push me through the finish line. That worked out well, protecting me from a flamethrower from Flygon, but my luck turned around when Salamence also used a flamethrower, and this time he got a crit. That's extremely bad, as now my HP are very low even after the berry. Fortunately, Drake's AI is not very good, and his last two Pokémons preferred to set up instead of straight up attacking me, giving me enough turns to defeat them. Finally, we have reached the champion fight, and this one could be easy or could be hard. Like Juan, he mostly uses water types, and that's not super good for us since we are only neutral to water. Here Thunderbolt could have been useful, but I'm not sure how much damage it would have been able to do, considering that I have no move to boost my special attack, and on its own is not particularly high. Instead, I tried to go for the usual course strategy. Wailord spammed a bunch of blizzards with great accuracy, but at least he did not get a freeze either. Once he ran out, he started using Water Spout, and even though his HP is very low, the damage on me was not insignificant. I finished him off with an Ancient Power, and I got super lucky as I got an Omni Boost. That was extremely good, not really because of the speed or the attack, but because of the special defense. That boost allowed my substitute to live many more turns than I was expecting, and that was crucial to maintain my HP high, so that they would not defeat me, but also to protect me from Leech Seed from Ludicolo. The Sombrero Pokémon went for double team, so it does not matter. My Lotic is finally able to break through my sub, but that's too little too late, as I can finish off the heal and gain the title of a champion of the Hoenn region. Overall, the Regis were quite fun to use and not that hard. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, maybe share it, and all of that stuff. If you have any feedback, video ideas or comments, leave them down below, and I'll see you next week. Bye!